A 36 save shutout for Arizona Coyotes goaltender Karel Vejmelka as Arizona takes a 4-0 win over the Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to break this game down. How did Arizona come away with this win? Plus, more news on today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Robyn Leonio. That's Carl Pavlik right beside me. On today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast, I want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. We got a great show for you guys in today's episode. It's a recap. Arizona Coyotes with a 4-0 win over the Carolina Hurricanes. Carl, this game was not expected.
No, absolutely not. I think I called for it being a 4-2 loss to the Coyotes. You said it was going to be over the 6-game,
The 6-goal
marker. Yeah. And yet the Coyotes completely shut out the Carolina Hurricanes, get a 4-0 victory, which also featured the dumbest period I have seen in hockey in recent history.
Oh, that first period was something else.
Listeners, if you have not watched the game, the Coyotes were outshot 14-1 in the first period, and they led the period for most of it 1-0.
Yeah, because Nick Schmaltz got the first goal 1 minute in.
Yes. 1 minute, 6 seconds to be perfectly exact. But yeah, just an absolute early goal by the Coyotes, who just fell into a shell, or better yet, got 3 immediate penalties, but somehow survived that first period.
Yeah, they survived that first period. And not only that, is second and third period, they came out hustling.
Yeah. The second and third period were key. One of the things I noted in my preview on Five for Howling that we didn't talk about is the Carolina Hurricanes have an atrocious power play. They are third worst in the league, I think, ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets and another terrible team. So maybe we should have expected this to be a good counter for the Coyotes, just one of those dumb matchups that they do really well against. But I don't know. It was just weirdest game of hockey I've ever seen.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead real quick and actually bring up our stats graphic. I put it up on our Twitter profile, but I put it up on here for you viewers on YouTube to see if you don't follow us on Twitter. Just take a look at this. Carl, you mentioned the 14-1 start, and look what it finished. It ended up being, 36-26 in favor of the Hurricanes in shots.
It's crazy though how the Coyotes can start really bad and then end up finishing moderately bad.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that. And you look at the power play too, right? No one had any good power play opportunities. You talked about how Carolina has an atrociously bad power play, but the Coyotes usually have a pretty good power play. They're usually at least relatively effective, and they didn't get anything on this one. So,
to be fair though, Lawson Krause's goal, his first 8th of the season, was scored right as the Carolina player was exiting the box. So
yes, that is true.
Yeah.
unfortunately does not count in favor of the power play unit, but unofficial stats. But yes, you are
Yeah,
right.
unofficially, like, and like it's one of those things where you wish it could be like a power play plus 30 seconds stat, like, or power play plus cap the zone stat, like, being there, because that is key. Like, if you can have like good momentum on a power play, finish strong, and even as the player's getting out of the box, like, you get a goal, like, that should be counted for in
Absolutely.
some way.
Plus also the expected goals. And 5-on-5 expected goals on here too as well is different. Take a look at it. It was 1.433 in favor of Carolina, and that's just 5-on-5. Expected goals was a lot more weighted in favor of Carolina, which really tells you something of the kind of effort that we saw from Karel Vejmelka tonight.
Yeah. A lot of effort from Karel Vejmelka, a lot of effort from the team in front of him, who, like, I think the first period they said it was the most shots the Coyotes have blocked in a period.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was insanely high. Like, Stetcher took two really big, like, hits to his body with a puck to, like, keep it a 1-0 game at the time. Like, this was a fully engaged team taking it to the Carolina Hurricanes in a not perfect way, but, in a way that won.
I'll even add more too. Is going into the second intermission, the Bally Sports Arizona TV crew was promising the uh, the watchers that they were going to get Jacob Chikrin, but if you watch Jacob Chikrin on the ice, he also was another player who took a lot of blocks.
Yeah.
And because of that, instead of going to the interview, he went to to get I don't know what the official term is, but get to the trainer, make sure make sure you got a
Get a
little
couple.
iced up, get some ice packs. There we go.
Yeah. I mean, I am 32 and my knee hurts just walking down the stairs sometimes. So I can only imagine what it is to take multiple pucks. You mentioned Jacob Chikrin. He had one one black shot, which is maybe a little bit of an underestimate because it seemed like he took way more. 8 shots on goal by the end of the game.
Yeah. I
That
think
is
maybe he had one
ridiculous.
block shot, but he had probably a lot more just like in the lane passes were blocked.
Yeah. Either way, like, the Coyotes, like, punished themselves to make sure that Vejmelka got the shutout for this one. It was great to see. It was a very big, like, team effort where players are like, look, we're not scoring right now. We're not getting offensive zone time right now. Let's just throw our bodies in front of the net.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're breaking down this game. Arizona Coyotes takes the 4-0 win over the Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to continue to do all that and more on this episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. But first, we're going to take a quick word.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. It's where you can get your latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports to hockey, we've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find all of those on BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting information. Head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. It's why we always use BetOnline for our game previews. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So let's go ahead and talk more about this game. Arizona, once again, 4-0 win. I'm glad to see Nick Schmaltz get a goal out there.
Yeah.
He got the first goal, right? And, to see him kind of like looking pretty good out there, and it's just what second game back. So not only that, but also Lawson Krause and the effort he's getting. Right, Lawson Krause now has the team high, what 9 goals, right? Because that is empty. Got the empty netter.
Yeah, 9 goals for Lawson Krause. His third empty netter, kind of like the king for that situation. Which I mean, I some people may like undercount empty net goals, but you honestly should not. If your coach is putting you on the ice for that, that is a very like important like statement about what you are as a player. Kraus has been great. Schmaltz, I thought, looked great. I thought he was like really gelling well with Keller last game. Like they couldn't connect for anything, but both of them like had really good chances. So it was nice to see him get rewarded.
Absolutely. Like it's good to see those players. And of course, I'm just naming those, those few. But I also, taking a look back at the graphic here, right? You cannot forget the fact that Nick Bukestad also got a goal.
Oh
So
yeah, Nick Bukestad, like third goal in 2 games. He had one before this. What is going on with him? Uh And little peek behind the curtain for everyone. I believe I messaged you about this. Like, someone like I asked on Twitter. I'm like, no one's talked to me about Nick Bukestad. Like, is anyone like know him as a household name? And then he goes and gets like 3 goals in 2 games. Just wants to make me look bad.
you know what it is, Carl, too? Might be he got the fuel from the dad's trip.
Oh, did you see that Karel Vejmelka's dad got to see him play in North America for the first time? Like,
I did see that. You gotta love stuff like that. You gotta love the dad's trip. I mean, the dad's trip, mom's trip,
yeah,
stuff like that. Like those are always really fun.
yeah. One of the good things I will note about the Coyotes this year is they seem to be very happy to get the players' families involved. Like
Hmm.
we saw that last season with Kessel, like going for the birth of his child. And we're seeing this like with the dad's trip, like the fact that it's 2 games. Like normally those like trips they're like one, but like I guess the Coyotes were like, "Hey, you're on the road a lot. Let's bring the dads on the road. Like make it like a thing." And I love that, especially because there is a lot of younger players and a lot of like sunsetting players. Like get the families involved. That's always good, especially like it's gonna be Thanksgiving tomorrow for our American
Yeah,
listeners. So yeah, include them.
yeah. Plus, I think there was another thing too, in which like I was, uh, no, watching back to the Bally Sports broadcast. I forgot, which dad was asked this. Um, I think it was Boyd's dad, if I'm not mistaken. That was pretty much saying like, yeah, hadn't seen, he hadn't seen his kid in, since like August, right? And like, so like he was glad he was able to get that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I think like I mean, especially if you're a professional athlete, you're living in one spot for like a lot of the year. You're living in another for a significant part too. That's something that people in Arizona can really relate to. Like it's a state that gets a lot of snowbirds. Like
Yep.
most people kind of know what that situation is like. They may know people who do that, and it does kind of like follow the hockey season to a lot of ways. And when you know people who do that, that is like a very like nuanced thing. It's good and bad that you're away from your family for a lot because you know you're doing something you like, but you're also not with the people that you love.
Exactly. And and that's why I'm glad Arizona is doing something like this, right? Like you said it, allowing the families to get involved. Which is why like, I want to see more things. Like, dad's trip, mom's trip is great, but I want to see just more in general families getting involved. We'll see what we can like what they do with that. But you know,
I mean, we have discussed a siblings trip. That would be fun.
it would be. Yeah.
Uh, the problem is like a large majority of hockey players have a mom and dad. I don't want to say all because for a variety of reasons that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily all of them have brothers and sisters and siblings. There is, hockey's a very expensive sport, so I can see like a lot of only children potentially getting into it at the early stages. So it may not be as special, but I think it'd be special in a very different way. Like, could you imagine like last season Amanda Kessel like shows up at a bunch of Phil Kessel games? That would be amazing. I would pay for that extra content. So siblings trip is its own kind of fun chaos.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But other than that, though, I think, I'm just glad to be able to see something like that. And who knows? Maybe it would. Maybe this dad trip was in fact that thing that helped Fuke's dad get those get this you know week that he had.
I joked on Twitter that we need to like crowd fund like to have Nick Bugstad's dad be like the Grateful Dead deadheads and just follow the team around for the rest of the road trip at least. Maybe even the rest of the season. I don't know what he's got going on. He may be doing something important, but if not, just follow his son around and watch hockey games.
It's like, don't you worry about anything else. Just stick
Yeah.
around with us. We got you.
I'm sorry you're a world famous pediatric heart surgeon. We need you to watch these games.
And every game, Bukestad just gets another goal or another multi-point game, or just watch end the road trip with the hat trick.
Nick Bugstad wins the Rocket Richard. The Coyotes still draft first overall.
Oh my god, I love it. I love it. Anyways, though, any final thoughts you want to give up about this game before we move on to our next bit?
This was the dumbest game of hockey I've ever watched in my life, and I mean that in the best way. Like, if you love dumb things like media, I'm just now finishing rereading John Dies at the End, which is a very dumb horror movie or horror book. And it's just got me in this mood. It's like, oh, it's fun because it makes no sense and you would never predict it to happen because it's just so dumb. Like, that's why I love this game. Dumb.
Oh yeah, you absolutely gotta love those absolutely dumb, the dumbness of hockey, right?
Hockey is the dumbest sport. Like, it's dumber than like chess boxing, where you play chess and then punch each other in the face. Like, that is, it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't love it. But anyways, though, once again, Arizona Coyotes take the 4-0 win over the Carolina Hurricanes behind a 36 save shutout from Karel Vejmelka. We're going to get to some other news, though. We do have to talk about some Coyotes roster news because Conor Timmins was on his way out. Is on his way out from the Arizona Coyotes. He has been traded. We're going to get to that bit, break that one down. Just a moment. I do want to thank everyone once again for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen today. From your second listen, be sure to check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes. Local experts and insight only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available on this app, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. But let's go ahead and go back here on Locked On Coyotes and talk about Conor Timmins, Carl, because he has been traded away from the Arizona Coyotes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you have the trade details, which is a really interesting trade details, but let's get to it.
So, yep, Conor Timmins was traded to the Maple Leafs for Curtis Douglas. Curtis Douglas is a player who was signed by the Maple Leafs this past March. Signed to a pretty standard 2-year ELC deal. He's going to be making $80K in the AHL. With the Marlies, he has played 80 games, has 13 goals, 22 assists. Uh, Not the best player. I think he kind of projects to be
No.
a third line AHL player.
Yeah.
The thing with this trade is the Coyotes were thinking they were going to have to waive Conor Timmins, so they decided to trade him and get something versus lose him for nothing.
Exactly. And that's the kind of thing that you have to consider if when you're the Arizona Coyotes, when you're a team like them, is what to do with with a player like Conor Timmins. And it sucks because a lot of us had a lot of high hopes for Conor Timmins, thinking he'd play well and everything like that. But when the kid is so injury prone, he doesn't show anything. He's still got the potential, but the Coyotes still need the field a team, and as well, not just the Coyotes, but also the Roadrunners, and they couldn't send Timmins down because of those waiver rules, and like you said, they didn't want to just completely lose out, so they had to find a deal. They had to find something. So yeah, you're getting a lifetime AHLer off of this, but it works, right? You're getting a player that's actually going to skate.
I mean, I think we kind of called this during the off season. Like at one point, like just before preseason, um, we were talking about what the Coyotes had on defense. And let me just kind of like break down the Coyotes players right now. They have Jacob Chikrin, Shane Gostisbehere, Patrick Nemeth, Yusei Valmaki, Josh Brown, Troy Stetcher, Dyson Mayo, JJ Mosher. They have
Mhm.
8 defensemen right now. Val Mackey was a late add, but they had 7 defensemen before. And that was when Conor Timmins was on LTIR still. So we questioned where he was going to fit in before the season even started. And
But it's because we
it's not
forgot
the
about
biggest
him, right?
surprise.
Because we were looking, it's like, oh, what the defense is gonna look like, and then we were looking, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? There's this. It's like, oh wait, Connor Timmins still exists.
Yeah.
How are we gonna fit that? Like,
The problem is like Timmins is still young enough that he needs games, he needs consistent ice time. But the Coyotes can't they don't have that. They don't have that space. Like I was thinking about like this roster and the one player you'd want to waive is what, Dyson Mayo? Uh
yeah, you can afford the wave Dyson Mayo.
and Dyson Mayo has largely been the 7th defenseman literally because the Coyotes have been doing 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. So, like, is Conor Timmins going to benefit from being the 7th defenseman? No, that's not how you develop a player. Like, this was kind of a problem, like, before the season even started. And I think it's probably going to chalk up to be one of the rare losses for Bill Armstrong, at least in these early years. Um,
Yeah,
and those may start to pile up. I think those are starting to pile up, to be honest, but this is kind of the first. Like, I don't think you need to acquire
I mean,
Brown, Stetcher, and Nemeth.
let's remember what Timmins was, right? I mean, he was added as that potential like a future good defenseman.
Yeah,
We didn't really know
highly
because he
touted.
was, yeah, highly, all that. Um, but the interesting thing is, I don't think he was really the key piece of that deal. Like, I mean, he was an important piece of of the trade that he was involved with. That was, I believe, Timmins and a first rounder
A-
for
And a
Darcy
conditional
Kemper,
third if Kemper plays a majority of the Cup final games and they win the Cup.
which, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
so
Timmins definitely like kind of a throw in for that, but still like I think he was like one of those. He could have been something.
he
Like there
could
was
have been,
potential there.
yeah. And I think the way it was managed wasn't great. I think, that if you look, 5 years from now, we look at, I take a look at the media guide that I get from every year from as a member of the Coyotes media, and I see this big book, and I look at players, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, Conor Timmins. I forgot about that dude.
Or it's gonna be, oh, Connor Timmins, the Coyotes gave up on him way too early.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um. Or I mean, in the sense like, oh yeah, I forgot he was a Coyote.
oh, you're gonna forget that? That is gonna burn me up for the rest of my life. Like, it's the same with like Kevin Ball, like just a player who the Coyotes traded away in the Taylor Hall trade, who has like a potential to be a big part. He's on the Jersey Devils right now. I don't think he's getting too many games, but like that's a winning team. If you
Right.
can get it on that, like that could potentially make your career. So I am gonna probably remember Connor Timmins for the rest of my life.
Yeah. That's fair. That is
Yeah.
fair. Anything else
Uh,
you'd like to? Go
yeah,
ahead.
we have to bring up the fact that this is a bit of a meme, but Kyle Dubas got another Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds player, Connor Timmins.
Oh my god.
My favorite thing is the fact that people have realized that he just loves that junior team that he was a part of. And I respect a lot of Kyle Dubas. Like I think he does like well with the Devils. But that is a interesting quirk. And I love the fact that the opposite of Bill Armstrong getting a tall guy who is 6'9", nice, is also fun.
Imagine if, like, you think about this. Like, imagine if, like, a NHL GM, let's say it's the GM of the Oilers because Connor McDavid is on that team, so we'll assume that it's like, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and try to get Alex DeBrincat too, and this player, like every player on from like just try to bring as much from the 2015 Erie Otters team, and like you'd think that dude's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely. You would be like, oh, okay. I guess you have a familiarity. I I'm glad that Bill Armstrong's not very focused on a team. Uh, I also want to bring up the fact that like just it's great that the Coyotes got Veggie, like another shutout for a guy who's in the Czech second league. Just insane.
Yeah, and I saw the tweet that you want to get a one of Veggie's old jerseys from Europe.
Absolutely. It's going to be covered in ads. I do not understand. I want it so much.
I love it. I love it. Any final thoughts you want to share before we close things off?
I'm pretty sure I gave two, so I think I'm good. Yeah, it's been a fun night.
It has been a fun night. But once again, Arizona takes the 4-0 win over the Carolina Hurricanes. Their next game will be set for Friday as they take on the Detroit Red Wings. We're going to, try to see if we can get a preview for that game, but it's also Thanksgiving, so we want to make sure everyone enjoys their holiday. But anyways, it's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Locked On Coyotes, on Instagram at Locked On Coyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I am personally at Robyn_Leano. Karl Pavlak is at Karl Pavlak FFH. Interact with us, ask a question that you might have, we might answer right back, or on a future episode, of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you're staying safe out there. Hope you're staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.